Consider this hypothetical scenario. You wake up one morning and find yourself transported 50 years into the past. Your memories of the future are all intact. You know exactly what's going to happen in the coming years. After quickly securing your finances, you suddenly realize you're holding a fragile timeline in your hands. One wrong word, one careless action, and you could unintentionally alter history for the worse. A tiny action could ripple outward in ways you'd never imagine. But that sword cuts both ways. One thoughtful suggestion, one small act of kindness, one gentle word of wisdom, and you could just as easily create a better future. If you were to find yourself in this situation, what would you do? What actions would you take? Now, here we are in the present, often acting as if our smallest decisions don't matter. But every choice we make shapes what comes next. Everything we do can change our future for better or for worse. This idea that tiny causes can trigger massive effects is called the butterfly effect. As the famous metaphor goes, a butterfly flaps its wings in Brazil, and weeks later a tornado forms in Texas. Whether or not the science holds up doesn't matter, the principle does. Every action matters, even the smallest one. And yet, most of us don't live like we believe that. We know 2 pages a day add up to finishing a book. We know 5 minutes of exercise add up to strength and health. We know one kind word can change someone's day. But because each feels so small in the moment, we often skip them. But here's the truth, these micro decisions don't vanish, they add up and compound. Over days, over weeks, over months and years. And they matter far more than you think. It's the same with neglect. Just as progress does, neglect also adds up, sometimes even faster. Skip flossing just this once and nothing happens, until it becomes a habit and you're booking a root canal. Ignore a small crack in the wall and it's fine, until a storm turns it into a disaster. Put off a difficult conversation until it's too late to have it at all. Do not underestimate the little things. They can transform your entire future, just like in that hypothetical past where one action could change everything. The same is true for your habits, your relationships, your ambitions. Now you might be nodding your head and agreeing with me as it makes perfect sense at the moment, but in 1 month you'll probably forget all about this principle. You'll miss a couple of days and you'll fall off track. I want this video to serve as your reminder to get back to it and to reinstate some consistency in your life. After all, a garden doesn't stay beautiful just because you planted flowers once. It thrives only with constant care. The same is true with your life. When you stop tending to it, it quietly unravels. So what would happen if you started to neglect yourself and got 1% worse each day for a whole year? You would end up at nearly 0. But what about if you improved yourself by just 1% every day? You would end up 37 times better after a year. That's the compound effect for you. Tiny, seemingly trivial choices multiplied over time create massive change. And here's where it gets even more powerful. What if you didn't stop there? What if you pushed yourself just a little bit more? Not much, just a little bit. Let's say 1.1%. After 1 year, you would end up 54 times better. And if you got 1.2% better every day, you would end up 78 times better. See that? The difference between good and exceptional isn't giant leaps. It's literal micro shifts. 1 extra page, 1 extra act of courage, 1 extra rep. It could all boil down to a single decision of just pushing yourself a little bit more that day. And no, you don't need to measure your percent better every day. That would be ridiculous. The point is this: push just slightly beyond what feels comfortable and time will do the rest. That's the difference between doing a tiny bit and just a little bit more than that. However, let's be clear, while pushing yourself is good and all, doing the bare minimum is still incredibly important, because it keeps your habits alive. If you think about it, the big things are just strings or an accumulation of the smaller things. Essentially, you need to do the small things in order to accomplish the big ones. After all, if you can't bring yourself to do 3 push-ups, how will you ever do 10? That's why you set a goal to only read 1 page, do 5 minutes of exercise, send 1 quick message to a friend. Starting small lowers the barrier to entry. It tricks your brain into saying, this is too easy to skip. And it helps you start doing the things you want to do. But perhaps more importantly, it creates momentum, which is probably the most overlooked thing when it comes to productivity and high performance. Starting is often the hardest part, but once you're already doing something, it's so easy to just keep doing it. As Newton's first law of motion states, objects at rest stay at rest. Objects in motion tend to stay in motion. That's why the 5-minute workout works, not because of the 5 minutes, but because it gets you into a different headspace and gets you moving. And once you've already done the 5 minutes, it's so much easier to just do another 5. But here's the tricky part. Tiny actions rarely pay off immediately. You can do the right thing for days, weeks, even months and feel like nothing's changing. That's why most people quit. But progress is often invisible until it isn't. Think of an ice cube. You can warm the room temperature from 26 degrees Fahrenheit to 31 degrees Fahrenheit and see nothing happen. That's -3 to -1 degrees Celsius for my European friends. But at 32 degrees Fahrenheit or 1 degree Celsius, everything changes. The cube starts to melt. All the work was slowly building up. You just couldn't see the results yet. But once it passed a certain threshold, it finally revealed itself. It's the same with the overnight success stories. Most of the time, it's years of work until it all suddenly blows up and the business becomes successful. That's why patience matters. It's why you keep reading the pages, doing the push-ups, having the conversations, even when nothing seems to be happening. Because effort is never wasted, it's stored, waiting for the tipping point when it shows up all at once. Now, this isn't about reinventing yourself overnight, it's not about doing 10 times the work, and it's not about working so hard that you burn out. It's simply about going one step further than you normally would. In practice, it would look like this. Instead of learning 4 new Spanish words, learn 5. Instead of 10 minutes of walking, do 12. Instead of 1 push-up, do 3. Instead of just clearing your inbox, follow up with someone you've been avoiding. Instead of saying, I'll do the dishes tomorrow, wash one of them now. And instead of investing $100, try to invest $150. These are tiny extensions of what you're already doing. Not massive changes, just small upgrades that can accelerate the progress towards your life goals. Now, I want you to return to our hypothetical scenario. This time, however, you're not going 50 years into the past, but 10 years into your own future. Imagine you're sitting across the table from your future self. What would they thank you for starting today? What habits would they beg you to keep going, even when it was boring, even when the progress was slow? What small neglects would they wish you had avoided? Every choice you make today sends ripples forward, and your future self will live in the ocean those ripples create. So make choices today that the future you will be grateful for. Now, here's a little challenge for you. Start small, do the bare minimum if you think that's all you can manage. But don't stop there. If you can, try to push yourself just a fraction further. Because in the end, the difference between slightly better and unrecognizably better isn't a single grand act. It's the accumulation of small, deliberate choices repeated over and over until they rewrite your future. One day you'll look back and realize there was no single moment that changed everything. It was the 1,000 tiny decisions you barely noticed. And when that day comes, you'll either thank your past self or wish they tried just a little bit harder. Thanks for watching.